Imagine a business model so bizarre, so defying of economic gravity, that for every $100 of products sold, the company reaches into its own pocket and sets fire to $19. That isn't business. That is charity. That is performance art. While their competitors are selling plastic figurines that might as well be printing presses for money, this company is selling toys like they are working off a debt to a landlord. They scream to the heavens that they refuse to live in the shadow of the industry giant, only to look down and realize they don't even cast a shadow anymore. The market is eating them alive. Hello everyone, let's cut right to the chase. I have a question for you. Do you know who holds the title for the most frustrated, suffocated hero in the Chinese toy jungle right now? It's not the Ultraman cards getting banned by angry parents. It's not the knockoff Lego sets fighting for scraps. No, it is the self-proclaimed hardbone that refuses to be the second fiddle to Pop Mart. I'm talking about 52 Toys. Now, 52 Toys sounds like a randomly generated password, doesn't it? But make no mistake, they are the legit number 3 player in the industry. But being number 3 is the tragic existence. Last year, they worked their fingers to the bone to sell 600 million RMB worth of toys. The result? A net loss of 120 million. Compare that to their arch nemesis, Pop Mart. Pop Mart pocketed 13 billion in revenue with a net profit of 3.3 billion. Their gross margin is nearly 67%. In China, we call that plastic Moutai. It's not a toy. It's liquid gold solidified. Here is the dagger to the heart. When Pop Mart's market value soared to 350 billion Hong Kong dollars, 52 Toys? 4 years after their latest financing rounds, their valuation climbed by a pathetic 20 million. They barely crawled to 4.2 billion. That is not refusing to be second. That is getting left behind in the cloud of dust so thick you can't even see the taillights. The irony is, 52 Toys had a dream start. The founder, Chen Wei, is an old wolf in this game. Back in 2000, he was selling game merch in Beijing's Drum Towers. He eventually became the exclusive agent for Bandai and Hasbro. Basically, he was the wet nurse for international giants raising their kids in the Chinese market. His partner, Huang Jin, was even a welder. A guy who used to drive around with the trunk full of Three Kingdoms kill cards, hustling on the streets until he turned a board game into a national obsession. In 2015, these two looked at each other and said, "We've been babysitting foreign brands for too long. Let's raise our own child." And 52 Toys was born. They wanted it all. Own IPs, licensed IPs, gacha machines, mecha figures. Their ambition was to be the Bandai of China. Back then, Pop Mart was just a glorified grocery store selling imported Sunny Angels, barely making 50 million a year. But then, 2016 happened. Pop Mart's founder flew to Hong Kong and signed a little girl with pouting lips and stubborn eyes named Molly. That plastic girl set the world on fire. Sales went from 180 million to 20 billion in 6 years. When Pop Mart rang the bell at the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, 52 Toys suddenly found themselves strapped to a barbecue grill. The media kept asking Chen Wei, "How do you compare to Pop Mart?" And Chen would stomp his foot and say, "We are different. Pop Mart is trendy toys. We are collectible toys. The collectible market is 3 times bigger." Theoretically, he wasn't wrong. The data said the collectible market was huge. But here's the problem. 52 Toys took that massive market and turned their business into a chaotic department store. They do everything. 35 owned IPs, 80 licensed IPs, plushies, mecha, model kits, even headphone cases. They launch 500 new products a year. They have nearly 3,000 SKUs. It's a mess. Meanwhile, Pop Mart is a luxury boutique. A few top-tier celebrities, Molly, Labubu, sweep the battlefield. Just the Monster series sold 3 billion last year. And 52 Toys? Their best performer is Crayon Shinchan. A licensed IP from Japan contributed 40% of their sales. Their own top IP, Beastbox, struggled for 3 years just to hit 200 million. That's not even what Pop Mart sells in a month on a bad day. Let's talk about the money. It is a tragedy. 52 Toys is suffering from what I call financial masochism. Their gross margin is 40%. Pop Mart is at 67%. Pop Mart sells a plastic doll and makes 27% more profit than 52 Toys does. Why? Because 52 Toys is working for the mouse. 6 out of $10 they make comes from licensed IPs. They burn $45 million a year just on copyright fees. And the clock is ticking. Contracts for Mickey Mouse, Hello Kitty, 26 core IPs are expiring by 2027. Rumor has it, the royalty fees are about to double. That's not running a business. That is being a sharecropper on Disney's land. And the supply chain? It's a disaster movie. Pop Mart has optimized their molds to produce millions of units. 52 Toys is trying to build complex mechas and plushies across 147 different factories. It's a battle royal of inefficiency. Their defect rate for mechas is 22%. Imagine that. 1 in 5 products go straight to the trash. Their warehouse is stuffed with inventory that sits there for 127 days. Chen Wei tried to fight back. He launched an IP committee, poured millions into comics and novels, opened stores in Thailand and North America. He tried to go all in. But reality is brutal. The new IPs tanked. Sales dropped 64% after 3 months. The Thailand store makes less than 150,000 RMB a month. That barely covers the rent in the Bangkok mall. The gap is widening. The top 3 players control half the market, but 52 Toys, despite being number 3, has a market share of 1.7%. Pop Mart has 18%. It's not a rivalry, it's a rounding error. The survival rule of the toy jungle is naked and cruel. You either become a god with your own IP like Pop Mart, or you dominate a niche like Bloki's does with kids. If you try to do everything, you end up excellent at nothing. 52 Toys is trapped in a maze of I want this and I want that. They want to be Pop Mart, but rely on Crayon Shin-chan to pay the bills. They have 2,000 products on the shelf, but the only one people remember is the cartoon boy showing his butt. It reminds me of a satirical verse for this modern tragedy. Shelves packed tight with 2,000 toys, yet silence reigns, no profit, no joys. Investors promised the moon and the stars, but the stock chart's stuck behind prison bars. Dreaming of Bandai, a glorious goal, while a single blind box swallows them whole. The capital myth fades into the night, leaving only an abacus and a terrible plight. That is all for this episode. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.